and I'd like to thank the Minister for taking the time to come into the House. I suppose I want to begin by thanking the Cathaoirleach for allowing this matter to be raised again, as it has been numerous times before in the Seanad, on the issue of the terms and conditions for public representatives at a local level. I want to begin by thanking all my Seanad colleagues in Fianna Fáil for supporting this matter, because it is an important matter, as we've just completed the local elections, and I want to congratulate all those who were successful at getting elected at local authority level to represent their communities and their constituents for the next 5 years. What I am concerned about, as many of my colleagues are, is the fact that they are not being adequately resourced or compensated for the enormous job that they have to do. As we know, in the 2014 election, there was 1,627 councillors at the previous election. We were down nearly 678 councillors, less than 1,000 councillors. We have the lowest level of public representation per head in the European Union. And we are worse than the United Kingdom, who is the second lowest. We have about 4,000 per head of population. The United Kingdom is 2,000 per head of population. In France, which is the best, it has 78 citizens for every public representative. So you can see the scale and the gulf between what other European countries do and what we do here in Ireland. That is bad enough in itself, but on top of that, we have the lowest level of powers given to public representatives at local authority level in Europe. The worst of all the EU countries is Ireland, in terms of the responsibilities given to councillors. So not only have they to look after more constituents than any other European country, central government year in, year out has taken more and more powers away from them, more and more decisions away from them, which now has the consequence, as we have seen in the local elections, that some areas had few public representatives in terms of candidates. In one area there was only 2 people not elected that had their names on the ballot paper. We've had loads of constituencies where there was 19 and 20 for 7-seaters. But in a lot of areas, parties, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, and all the rest struggled in some areas to find candidates. There was many conventions not contested, because not only has the workload increased, but the amount of money that councillors are given and the supports given, in terms of some councils do have secretarial supports for their local representatives, but that is not uniformed, and that needs to be made uniform. There needs to be allowances. There was all sorts of proposals. We are anxious that this report, which was supposed to come out in the beginning of this year, didn't come out, obviously, because nobody wanted to see it come out from the government side before the election, because it might dissuade more people from running, although a lot of people, not knowing what the future would hold, actually decided not to run again. So what I want to know from the Minister is, what is their plans? Why have they not released this report? And when it is discussed, I hope the Minister and the government come back into this House to debate it and the other House to debate it, because what will happen over the next local elections and the one after that, in 10 years' time, we could have entire local electoral areas where there will be no contest, and we will be looking to get people to run at local authority level, because not only are people struggling because of the fact that they can't get support from the government and they're not adequately compensated, but they don't have the power that they should have, that other European countries give to their local authority members. And I think that has to be addressed. It's a two-issue problem. And I think that the terms and conditions is important, because in a country where you're coming towards full employment, where people will have more and more demands upon their time, they will not be able to give the amount of time. And I note that the survey, which was one of the reasons given for a delay in publishing this report, was based on the last set of councillors. And like many of those have been re-elected, but I do think we need to look at the future. And the concern, and I think the Minister and the Fine Gael and the government are well aware that the concern is very soon we will not have enough people to fulfil the tickets that are being put forward for local elections. I look forward to the Minister's answer. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Thank you. I usually don't make a comment, but I think as former public rep, or a local authority member, I think it's acknowledge the huge effort that people put themselves to putting their names forward, number one, and to congratulate the victors and empathise and sympathise with the vanquished, because it's very stressful physically and mentally and emotionally, and their families as well, for all those who ran. And I think credit must be acknowledged. Particularly, it's great to see young people here in the gallery. You're more than welcome, because I saw in my own county a young lad, I'm not sure, I think it was no party, of 19 got elected. And in my home town or village of Skull, a young girl of long-standing political pedigree was elected. She ran for Katie Murphy, who's I had the good fortune to meet her during the campaign, and she is just 20 and still in college. So it's great to see the youth involved from whatever party. So just to wish those I suppose, compliment all those who stood, and to obviously congratulate those who were successful, and to sympathise for those who weren't, because most of us in here are elected by a local authority member. So I just wanted to make that comment in as balanced a way as possible. My apologies, Minister, so I'll let you give the formal answer that the Senator Daly is looking for.
Thanks, Chair. And
I'm sure you have a lot of good news for it.
Certainly do. Again, Chair, thanks. And can I associate with your own remarks, some of the remarks of Senator Daly as well. First of all, for raising this issue, which is very, very important, and certainly the important timing of it, that we've just followed that, and we're more or less completed all the counts of the local elections as well. But again, first of all, I want to agree with your comments too, and congratulate all those who were successful over the last couple of days in winning a seat, and send commiserations, but also a big thank you to all the candidates who did run who weren't successful. And many who knew that it might have been difficult to start out in the first campaign. It might take more than 1 or 2 campaigns as well. But to remind most people that the majority of councillors have to run once or twice before they become councillors as well, so don't lose hope. But it's a big deal to decide to put your name forward in a public contest for public scrutiny, because we all know now that politics has changed quite a lot with the visibility and the scrutiny of your own work and your family's work and your background and your history and so on. So it's a big deal to say yes to run. It's great when it works out and you win, and you get very busy, but it can be hard when you lose as well. So again, just to thank all the candidates, because democracy is very, very important, and we fought hard for it in this country. It's important that we respect that and every opportunity as well. And again, to coincide with all the young people here as well, it's great to see so many young candidates getting involved. And certainly a big issue in the campaign was climate change, and that agenda was certainly driven by the young people, both in Ireland and right across Europe as well, and rightly so. So just to congratulate them on their work doing that, because that means they're also involved in politics from a very young age. John Paul Phelan, Minister John Paul Phelan, and myself and Minister Murphy were certainly very passionate about local government, and as ministers based in the Department of Local Government and Electoral Reform, we want to ensure that the critical role of local councils is clearly defined and fairly remunerated. I think everybody recognises the pressures on that job now and the long hours the majority of councils put in. And I said the majority put in very, very long hours and over many days of the week as well, so we do have to recognise that too, and it's well commented on here. I'm strongly of the view that councils must be appropriately supported and need to carry out their work effectively and to the highest standards of integrity, transparency and accountability. And to do that, it does mean they have to be well remunerated, but also well supported right throughout the system. To that end, and taking on board significant concerns raised by councillors and in debates in this House regarding the current remuneration regime, we agreed with the Minister for Finance and Public Expenditure Reform to commission a review of the role and remuneration of councillors. On the 21st of June 2018, Minister John Paul Phelan appointed Ms Sara Moorhead, SC, to carry out the independent review. Ms Moorhead has consulted widely with local authority elected members and their representative organisations, political parties, local authority chief executives and other appropriate stakeholders. Ms Moorhead submitted an interim report to Minister John Paul Phelan and our department, which was published in November 2018. In order to progress towards the final report, it was necessary to survey all local authority members and to seek financial information from all the local authorities. The survey has now been completed and the financial data has been collected. In both cases, deadline extensions were granted to allow sufficient time for comprehensive responses to be made, so that the delays were not of the government's nature, they were requests, so that all the responses could be in time. The drafting of the final report is progressing well, and Minister John Paul Phelan expects to receive it shortly. Following the necessary consultation with the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, the review will be submitted to Government in due course and published thereafter. The review will more comprehensively define the role of councillor This informs the examination of the current system of remuneration for councillors with a view to proposals for a remuneration package that is modernised and representative of the commensurate with the role. Supports to councillors of a non-remuneration nature are also considered and I think are extremely important as well, which Senator Daly has mentioned too. Recognising that immediate action was required and separate to the review, we have already made a range of improvements to the supports provided to councillors, and we know they're only a step in the right direction. Those improvements included providing for a new allowance for councillors of €1,000 per annum, which was backdated to the 1st of July 2017, in recognition of the additional workload following the 2014 reforms, and in many cases people were covering much greater distances, and certainly when it comes to counties like Mayo or Roscommon, and probably even Kerry as well, massive areas that had to be covered as well, and that was well recognised. We also introduced new optional vouched expenses of up to a maximum of €5,000 per annum, which councillors may opt for in place of the existing unvouched allowance of up to €2,500 per annum. And that's worked out quite well for a lot of councillors who are able to spend that money wisely on a lot of supports they needed to be able to do their job. In addition, the representational payment paid to councillors, which is linked to a senator's salary, was increased to €17,060 per annum with effect on the 1st of October 2018. I understand it is to be increased further in line with adjustments arising from the Public Services Stability Agreement 2018 to 2020. I want to conclude now by welcoming the Seanad members' continued interest in this matter. I want to thank Senator Daly for placing it on today's agenda and to confirm that Mr John Paul Phelan will brief you further once the report is finalised and published in the very near future.
And for a brief supplementary, I would like to welcome the Russian delegation here from the Duma. You are most welcome to our country, and I had the good fortune to meet you earlier today, and I took particular note. We are having a debate here about local authority, public their salaries and expenses, etc. One of these members of the Duma travels through 8 time zones to get to work. So I hope that your remuneration is at least on par, if not better than what the councillors here have to travel in there. So I hope you have a very enjoyable visit to our country. You are more than welcome, and I look forward to more enhanced and developed good relations between the Irish public representatives and the people of Russia, and particularly the representatives. So I hope you're enjoying your stay, and that come more frequently to our lovely country. Thank you. Senator Daly, briefly.
Thank you. As this is the 100th anniversary of the first Dáil, I'd like also to thank Russia for being the first country to formally recognise the Irish Republic all those years ago. I thank the Minister for the response, and obviously, along with our Seanad spokesperson on housing planning and government, Dara O'Brien, and local government spokesperson Shane Castles, along with my Seanad colleagues, we will be asking to meet the Minister and the author of the report to put our case forward, because as is outlined, it's about terms and conditions, but the reform element is important, because if we continue to take powers away from local authority members, then the amount of people who will put themselves forward will diminish and diminish, and it will affect our local government. But it goes back to the original point of that the terms and conditions are simply not adequate. And the Minister did point out that he was looking at things other than terms and conditions to assist councillors in their duties. We look forward to hearing those, but I do think that they need to be more generous and not looking at the historic problems, but like in the future problems of getting people to run for local government. And I'd like to thank the Cathaoirleach, Dennis O'Donovan, for taking this debate. I know he's huge interest in it, having served in local authority himself, and I think it's important that we continue to raise this issue. But I do note the answer says the end of May, so I would assume that the Minister will have 48 hours. Hopefully there should be a report published somewhere. But it's not about expenditure, it's about local government and assisting local authority members in performing their duties over the next 5 years and for decades to come. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Briefly, Minister, we're already over time, partly due to my own intervention.
I'm not sure I mentioned the end of May, but I said certainly very soon. Again, just to be very clear, because I think I spoke about the reforms to remuneration, but in relation to councillors' powers, I think there's absolutely no intention to take away any powers of councillors. In fact, I said I didn't take any powers away. In fact, we're very proactive with trying to give powers back. And if you were here for most of the debate on the planning bill last year, we were giving powers back to councillors, and we have enhanced our powers, because planning is a major function councillors have. And there's many other areas. But I sat in the council 20 years ago when I was elected first in 1999 as a 21-year-old. And I watched councillors who didn't always want to use the powers they had. And some of those powers have eroded over the last 20 years. So I'm certainly a believer in giving councillors the powers to do their job. And I would ask all councillors and new councillors to use those powers, take them seriously and realise the opportunity they have. They are the directors of the companies that run their counties. And they have got a lot of powers. I often hear councillors telling me they don't have powers. I can stress to you they have a lot of powers under legislation that they very often don't get to use. They should use them, and if they work collectively as a group, they'll be able to do that. I do believe that they have got powers there, and yes, we will find ways to give them back more powers. That's why we had the directly elected mayors competitions in the 3 local authorities as well, to try and give powers back to the local area to make decision making as well, to drive that agenda. And I think that's something they did support, and that's something we will continue with. But rest assured here, we believe in councillors having the powers, but also in them using them, and using them responsibly as well.
Thank you.